Hey, my art friends, it's Miss Rose with another fun art project for you to do at home. April showers bring May flowers, so you're gonna start out with a paper plate and end up with a flower. We're gonna do some weaving. It's gonna be fun and you'll love it. All right, so get your yarn and get ready. The supplies you will need for our flower weaving are a pencil, pair of scissors, paper plate, some tape. It could be masking or scotch. If you're going to decorate your paper plate afterwards, you'll need crayons or markers, and then some yarn. I like to have like at least 4 colors, but you can have more or less depending on what you have. The first thing you want to do is make your basic flower shape out of your paper plate. Our petals are kind of squared off, but you could make them rounder, and it's a good idea to have an uneven amount of petals on your flower. That just works out better for your loom. So I have 13 petals. So if I start counting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's an uneven amount. All right. You are going to take your pencil and you can either make a little line where you're going to cut, or you can just cut. It's not a big cut, so maybe you need to mark it on your paper plate, and I will mark it just so you can see how big the line ends up being. It's just a small cut for you to hook your yarn in there when you were making our loom. Okay, so like I said, just a small cut. You'll take your scissors and go around and cut in the valley between each of the petals. All right, you might want to pause the video at this point and get yourself caught up with me so we can do the yarn together. All right, another good idea before we get started with the yarn is to kind of make a dot in the center of your plate to kind of know where the center is. All right, we're gonna flip over our paper plate. I have a piece of yarn that's maybe, it's maybe about 24 inches long, or 2 feet. All right, so we're gonna tape our yarn on the back of our paper plate. And then we're gonna flip it over. All right, so we're gonna come in one of our cuts. Just take the push the yarn in there, and you're going to cross over. I like to say we're going across the street, kind of in the middle. We don't want to go too far over this way or too far over that way. Actually, that one's better. That's closer to the middle, so I'm going to go with that. So on one side we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 petals, and on the other side we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would like you to start on the 6 sides of petals. All right, so we want to cross the street. We pulled the yarn through. We're gonna go to our next door neighbor and we're gonna tuck it in from the back. All right, so I want to cross the street, went next door, behind the paper plate. Now I'm going to cross over, go across the street, tuck it in tight, go next door on the back side of our paper plate. Having a problem getting it in the, there we go. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go across the street, go next door, behind our paper plate, go across the street, tuck it in the slit. Go next door behind the paper plate. Here we go again, across the street. Go next door behind the paper plate. Across the street. Don't pull it too tight. You'll bend your paper plate. And go next door behind the paper plate. All right, if you by chance end up with an extra slot, you can always cheat a little bit and go behind, but this worked out fine. So I'm going across the street. All my slits are filled. So now I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to tie it in the middle. So you kind of make a loop and pull it through and make yourself a knot. I always like to go twice. So I go under, pull it through, and tie it off. Okay, and our loom is ready to go. All right, our loom is ready to go. These threads are actually called your warp threads, and it's part of the loom. So I could continue weaving with this color thread, but I want you to be able to see better going under and over. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this one off, but you don't have to. You can actually weave with this one. And I'm gonna add some yellow. So in order to change colors or add to the color you like, if you ran out of thread, I put the two together, I loop it around my finger and pull it through the hole so it's knotted. Some people have a different way of knotting their two threads together, but that's the way I do it, and I'll show that to you again when we change colors again. So I'm going to start with my yellow. I'm going to just have a good amount of yarn. You don't want it too long because it gets tangled up, but let's just start. So pick where you want to start, and you're going to start by going under, then over, under, over, under, over, and then maybe after doing 3 of them, you pull your thread or yarn all the way through. Let's see what's happening there. Sometimes it gets tangled up. All right, so I pulled it tight, not too tight because you don't want if your paper plate starts bending, you're pulling your yarn too tight. All right, I'm gonna keep going. So the last one I was under. So now I'm gonna go over the brown, under the green, over, under. Just keep telling yourself over, under, pull it through. Okay, we have this knot in the way and we're just gonna tuck it underneath once we get going. So this last one, I did under, so now I'm going to go over, then under, over, under, pull it through, going to tuck this knot a little bit under. Okay, so the last one we went over, now we're going to go under, over, under, over, under, and I'm going to pull it through. Careful not to get your yarn all tangled up. And that's, if you make it too long, it gets tangled. So you can see that I'm going over, under, over, under, over. And if you make a mistake, that's okay. Oops, happen all the time. So we're going over the green, now under, over, under. I kind of bunch up my yarn. Be careful when it gets caught on the petal that you pull it out. And we're still going around. That knot's kind of in the way. So this last one I went under, I'm going over and under. Okay, now I'm going to try and get that knot to go on the other side. You can do this with your pencil or your scissors. And the more you're weaving, the more it gets tucked in there. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little more so you can see over, under. Okay, so that knot is better tucked in. All right, so you can kind of see that I'm still going over and under. I'm going to show you one more time how to change your colors. I could keep weaving with this yellow and it would just go farther out in my design and then change colors, but I want you to be able to know how to change colors, so let me show you how to do that again. So usually when you have about this much yarn left over, it's usually time to add another color or add more yellow if you want. So here's my other color, and remember I just put them both together, the pieces of yarn, loop it over my finger and pull it through the hole. All right, and then you're ready to keep going over and under with your new color. All right, so this is my finished flower. I've done enough yarn that I wanted to. You could do more and keep going, but I feel like that's enough. And I wanted to show you how I ended it. See, also I have a knot hanging out here. All you have to do is tuck that under. And then to finish, when you're down to your last yarn and you're not going to do anymore, all you do is tie it to one of the warp threads, the one that's closest to you, and then I just make a little knot. And then I just tuck that thread or that yarn back underneath. So that's all you do. You knot it and then push it underneath so you don't see it hanging out. All right, so you can tell I changed colors several times, and it's your choice how far out you weave. When you're finished, if you choose to decorate the rest of your paper plate, you can use crayons or more like permanent markers, because the paper plate is kind of slick, so permanent stays better, but I did mine in crayon and that worked just fine. Okay, so that's how you weave on a paper plate. I'm showing you another example of a flower where I did more petals, smaller ones. Again, remember to make your petals an odd number. And that's it. I hope you had fun weaving on a paper plate. All right, so get your yarn and get ready.